Hugh Hewitt, joined now by United States Senator Tom Cotton. He's on the Armed Services Committee, and he is, of course, deeply involved with what's going on around the world via that and the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Cotton, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Short segment today, so I want to get right to it, although it's always nice to have you, and I want to say hello. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, has said he is pulling out of Syria, saying his goals are achieved. What do you make of that?
You remember that Vladimir Putin started his career as a KGB agent, and Russia is what happens when an intelligence service takes over an entire state. So President Putin governs Russia's operations around the world on the old KGB principle of disinformatsia. I would say it's too soon to say exactly what Mr. Putin means by his withdrawal from Syria, or if there's even going to be a genuine withdrawal from Syria. But it is an important reminder that Vladimir Putin, by intervening in Syria back in September with a limited number of aircraft, with very limited number of troops on the ground, has been able to significantly change the battlefield calculus in Syria and therefore the entire political standing of the Middle East with very minimal costs.
Now, Russia's had a naval base on the Syrian coast since Soviet Union days. That's not going anywhere. But the 6-month air campaign, which we're talking about, if he does end that, is that good news in your eyes or bad news?
Well, anytime the bombing of civilians has happened repeatedly over the last 6 months by Russia's Air Force stops, that's good news. Unfortunately, the effect of that bombing campaign has been to substantially strengthen the Assad regime and to substantially weaken the position of the United States and our Sunni allies throughout the region. All that Vladimir Putin has done is to make Assad's grip on power tighter in Syria and therefore to embolden the access of Iran and Hezbollah, Assad, and now Russia throughout the Middle East, which weakens our standing in the Middle East.
Now, the New York Times has a graphic up along with this caption, Senator Cotton. The partial ceasefire in Syria, which began February 27th, has proved more effective and durable than expected, significantly reducing the level of violence. Now, that's an odd way to put what's going on there, but what do you think of that assessment?
Well, the partial ceasefire that's been underway now for a couple weeks could have happened at any point that Vladimir Putin wanted to stop dropping bombs on Syrian civilians, and anytime the Assad regime quit barrel bombing them, or anytime the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps shock troops quit massacring them. There's some evidence that the ceasefire that's been in effect for a couple of weeks has largely allowed the Assad regime to consolidate their gains throughout the northwest and position equipment preparing it for a new assault. It's yet to be seen if that will happen, but just because there hasn't been any active or much active shooting over the last 2 weeks and what's going into the 6th year of civil war in Syria doesn't mean that the war is coming to an end anytime soon or that it's going to end on terms that are favorable to United States interests.
The summary provided by the Times is that Russia flew 9,000 sorties and that the Syrian government has regained control of 400 settlements, by which I guess they mean towns or villages. And I gather then that the Iranian access through Syria to Hezbollah is secure. Are there lines of supply now running to Tehran?
Well, Hugh, that's one of the main efforts that Vladimir Putin helped Assad and Iran with in Syria, was to secure lines of communication and to retake fallen territory, to crush certain rebel strongholds, certainly not to take on the Islamic State as Vladimir Putin said he was going to do.
Now, you're following Eric Osborne of Sidley Austin, who's calling for the State Department to declare a genocide on Thursday of this week against the Iraqi Christians. Do you support that label, Senator Cotton, that determination?
Well, there's certainly no doubt that the Islamic State has been trying to exterminate Christians throughout the territory they hold. I've been working with my colleagues to try to find some way that we would admit the persecuted Christians throughout the Middle East. There are hundreds of thousands of people living in refugee camps and millions more who are displaced in private homes or outside of Syria. Most of those, though, are just the subjects or the generalized victims of war. Christians, however, are being specifically targeted because of their Christian faith. And I think that we should do everything we can to try to protect them, just as we did for Jews in the Soviet Union or continue to do for religious minorities in Iran.
Do you just support the determination of genocide?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Senator Cotton. I appreciate that very much. Don't go anywhere, America.